What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the JT Sports Podcast. I'm your host, JT, here with my reactions to the first round of the 2026 NFL Draft. After David Bailey went off the board at 2 to the Jets, this draft just turned into complete chaos. I don't think anybody expected the first round to play out the way that it did, from the Titans drafting Cornell Tate 4th overall, the Dallas Cowboys somehow, luckily enough, get the best player in the draft without even having to trade up for him. The Rams finally drafted the future successor for Matthew Stafford. And then my favorite team, the Pittsburgh Steelers, were about to draft the player that I wanted the most out of anybody out of this class for us to get, that being Makai Lemon, just for Jerry Jones to pull a stupid move and trade the pick to his biggest op to allow them to address their biggest need. We'll dive into it all, along with the biggest winners and losers from round one, how upset the Chiefs are with their first pick of the draft. If you live, eat, breathe, and die football, you have come to the right place. We're talking all things football, NFL, college football, 24/7, 365 days throughout the year. If you're a diehard football fan, you're a football junkie like me, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you can get your daily football fix in and you don't miss when we drop new content. Also, we are not just a YouTube channel. We are a podcast. You can find this episode along with all of our previous ones in audio format on all podcasting platforms. Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast from, the JT Sports Podcast is available. The links are down in the description down below. If you enjoy this episode, you want to support the grind, all we ask is that you take less than 10 seconds to give us a 5-star review. Helps us out a lot, helps us grow, and it's a free way to support the pod. Without further ado, let's dive into it. I first want to start off with the pick that shocked me the most. The Arizona Cardinals drafted Jeremiyah Love 3rd overall. He is the highest running back to get drafted this high since Saquon Barkley went 2nd overall a few years ago. And initially, I started off hating this pick. But the more I talked about it with my friends, my homies, and the more I started to think it out, I understand why Jeremiyah Love went 3rd to the Cardinals. Now, I don't love the pick. I felt with them being in the current situation that they are, and there's no reason for them to go best player available right now when you have a huge hole at right tackle. You have a bunch of holes on the defensive side of the football. However, this is a pick that I don't think it's stupid. It's just a pick that I don't think was smart considering the current state of the Cardinals. I'm not anti-running back in the top 10. If you're a running back like a Jahmyr Gibbs, a Bijan Robinson, a Saquon Barkley, you deserve to get drafted in the first round. You deserve to go wherever any team chooses to pick you, whether it be 1st overall, 2nd overall, 7th overall. A first-round running back is a first-round running back. Jeremiyah Love is in that mold. He looks exactly like how you expect a running back in the first round to look. He has elite acceleration, very good after contact, elite change of direction. With the Cardinals team that at the moment doesn't have a long-term answer at quarterback, you either started Jacoby Brissett or Gardner Minshew. Their new head coach, Mike LaFleur, he probably is saying there's no point in us investing into an offensive tackle 3rd overall when our quarterbacks aren't even going to be that good to where it's even a necessity to worry about keeping those guys upright, since we want to run the air out of the football. The strength of Arizona's offense right now is at running back. They already were crowded at running back before they drafted Jeremiyah Love. You had Trey Benson. You signed Tyler Algier free agency. James Conner is coming off a season-ending ankle injury from last year. He agreed to a 1-year deal with you a few months ago. Jeremiyah Love, how he's going to factor into it, though, the Arizona Cardinals, with how much they're going to run the ball, they're going to be running a running back by committee, which means that you're going to have 3 different backs all rotating in and out that have specific roles. They're all going to get a handful of carries. James Conner, Jeremiyah Love, they're going to be the 2 bell cows of this RB by committee. Eventually, James Conner, when he gets injured, it's not a matter of if he'll get injured. It's just a matter of when he'll get injured. He is a good player. He's 30 years old, but durability hasn't really been his strong suit. When he goes down, that's when Tyler Algier comes in. Tyler Algier was the insurance option for James Conner this year. That's why the Arizona Cardinals signed him in free agency. You'll probably see 60% of Jeremiyah Love toting the rock, 25 to 30% of James Conner getting the rock, depending on how healthy he is, and then a little bit of Trey Benson, Tyler Algier sprinkled in there. Arizona had bigger issues than having to get a running back, but when you're a team as bad as what the Cardinals are and what they're going to be this season coming up, I can't completely fault you for just going best player available, because even if you would have went with addressing an area of need like right tackle or somewhere on the defense, that player alone wouldn't be good enough to make you a playoff team or make you a Super Bowl contender. Obviously, with the Cardinals being in division with 3 of the best head coaches, 3 Super Bowl contenders, they're far away from even being able to be a playoff team right now. And so even if you would have taken a Francis Mauigoa, or you would have drafted Ruben Bain or Arvell Reese, it wouldn't have helped you out that much. Improving at running back not only makes you a better offense, but it also sets you up for success with whoever you choose to draft that quarterback in next year's draft, whether that be Arch Manning, Julian Sayin, Darian Mensah. Having a playmaker like Jeremiyah Love makes it a lot easier for whoever's going to be your young signal caller eventually, since you don't put a lot of pressure on them. They don't have to carry the team. You can help them out with a good run game. And by Arizona drafting Jeremiyah Love 3rd overall, they have the most underrated offense in the NFL. When they do end up finding their future at quarterback, he's going into a better situation than what you would think. The Cardinals got good receivers. Michael Wilson was popping off when MHJ was injured. MHJ, I'm still not giving up on him quite yet. The offensive line isn't terrible. Still needs a little bit of work. So there's some good pieces on this Arizona Cardinals offense. Also forgot to mention Trey McBride, debatably the best tight end in the league. The Cardinals got some good pieces. And you add Jeremiyah Love to this offense, it looks a lot better than what it was before the draft took place. And whoever ends up starting that quarterback, if they can at least be serviceable, they got a good enough supporting cast that the Cardinals, maybe they end up being what the Saints were last year. They were a team that the expectations weren't that high entering the 2025 season. They end up overachieving, winning more games than what they were expected to. That's how the Cardinals could possibly be this season, depending on how good the quarterback play is from either Minshew or Brissett. Like I said, I'm not the biggest fan of the Cardinals drafting Jeremiyah Love. I definitely felt there were bigger issues that they could have addressed. They're not in a situation where it made a lot of sense to go best player available. But if you're trying to find an identity on offense where you have a lot of question marks at quarterback, drafting the best player on offense in this draft, it makes a little bit of sense to me, to where I'm not going to grade this out as an F+. I'll give it a B-. You got a playmaker. He's going to make plays. He will be a finalist for Offensive Rookie of the Year. He's a great player. It's a good pick. It's just one of those selections that makes you ponder, was it the smart move disregarding need and taking best player available instead? I guess we'll see after this draft ages 3-4 years from now. Kansas City Chiefs fans are 38 hot right now because they expected for their first pick of the draft this year to be on the defensive line, boosting that pass rush, which really hampered that defense last year. And when they traded up 6 overall with the Browns, the thought was, okay, they're going to take Ruben Bain. And instead, they shock us all and they draft Mansoor Delane, cornerback out of LSU. Now, in all of my mock drafts, I've had the Chiefs getting Mansoor Delane at 9 up until my most recent mock draft where I had him going to the New Orleans Saints. A lot of Chiefs fans are pissed off with the selection of Mansoor Delane because they felt the pass rush was more important to address before figuring out all of the other areas you have to improve on the defensive side of the ball. The issue is with where the Chiefs were drafting at, you weren't going to be able to come away with a pass rusher that had a high floor and a high ceiling. All you had available with your turn to pick if you never traded up was Ruben Bain. And while I love Ruben Bain, I believe he's going to be a good player. The Chiefs are in a situation right now where they have to draft guys that they know not only are going to have an immediate impact, but they're also going to turn into high-level players in probably around like 3-4 years into their career. And the Chiefs right now, they can't risk with the current state that they're in right now, having so many holes they have to fill on defense. They couldn't afford wasting this pick on a player that has a low floor, high ceiling. They need a player that has a high floor and just as high as a ceiling because the risk isn't that high. The risk with Mansoor Delane is a lot lower for Kansas City than the risk would have been you taking Ruben Bain 6 overall. Because Mansoor Delane, you are pretty confident that he's not going to be a bust. He was the best corner in college football. He only allowed 14 catches on 35 targets last season. That's absolutely ridiculous. Ruben Bain, for as good as what he was at Miami, you have concerns about the arm length. You don't know if the arm length is truly going to limit his ceiling at the next level. So for Kansas City, the discussion wasn't which position do we need to address more, and more so was the discussion which of these two players not only is going to be able to come in and have an immediate impact on their defense, but is also going to be a good player for the long run. And Mansoor Delane was the safer of the two options. There's a lot of good depth when it comes to the pass rushers in this class that Kansas City can still walk away with some good pass rushers in day 3 of the draft. So I'm not too concerned about the Chiefs choosing to pass on Ruben Bain for Mansoor Delane. They did end up doubling back late in the first round with their second first-round selection, improving the interior of their defensive line, drafting Clemson defensive lineman Peter Woods, who was one of the best pass rushers in this class, in my opinion, when it came to interior defensive linemen. And before last season started, he was a projected top 5, top 10 pick. There's a lot of potential. There's a lot of upside with Peter Woods. But Mansoor Delane just was the cleaner, immediate impact pick. When you're picking at 9, you were either going to have to pick between Caleb Downs, Mansoor Delane, Ruben Bain. That pretty much was all you was going to be picking from. And the Chiefs have so many holes on defense that they were never going to be able to improve them all in the draft this year. Even once this draft concludes 2 days from now, the Chiefs are still going to have a bunch of holes that they have to address on defense because they failed to address them in free agency, whatever the reasons for that was. And then the draft isn't a place where you can go in with all these holes and you can walk out with all of them filled, because some of those holes aren't going to get addressed since some of these guys aren't going to work out. No matter how good of a drafter you are, you're always going to have your fair share of hits and misses. Kansas City has already had a lot more misses than they've had hits in the first round these last few years. So getting Mansoor Delane, the undisputed number 1 corner in this class with a high floor and a high upside, doesn't have the bust risk that Ruben Bain would have given you if you would have taken him 6 overall. I thought it was a good pick. And it's not like you gave up multiple first-round picks for Mansoor Delane. You gave the Browns the 9th overall selection, the 74th, and 148th overall selection. So you didn't give up any first-round capital for this trade to take place. The only pass rushers that were worth Kansas City drafting at that spot weren't on the board. They were all gone before that. I thought it was the right move drafting Mansoor Delane instead of Ruben Bain. Now, if you were one of those that felt Sonny Styles would have been a good fit for Kansas City, hey, I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad if you felt Kansas City should have got Caleb Downs. But either way, they were still going to ignore and improving the defensive line with their first pick. Mansoor Delane is one of those corners that he's going to end in the league, and he's going to be one of the best at his position by the time we get to the midway point of this upcoming season. He was dominating some of the best receivers in the country and arguably the best conference in college football. And if there's any program that you can trust investing a first-round pick into whoever they have coming out at defensive back, it's LSU, who is DBU. There's no other program that pumps out better defensive backs than what LSU has. And you got to also take into account that the Chiefs' hole at corner was a lot bigger than the hole that they currently have on their defensive line. They lost several starters on their secondary from last year, from their 2 starting corners, from a starting safety. You had to address corner, and you couldn't wait too long to address it. This corner class is okay, but it's not deep enough that you could bank on your development and you can find another Jalen Watson in the mid-rounds or in day 3. It wasn't that kind of corner class. So either you drafted a corner within the first 2-3 rounds, or you were going to be asked out at that position. So they just went ahead and they got the best possible replacement in the draft that they could have for a guy like a Trent McDuffie. This pick made a lot of sense because with what they lost in the secondary, you had to go defensive back. And Mansoor Delane is going to help this defense improve faster than what drafting a rookie edge rusher would have been from what was available on the board for Kansas City when they were picking on the clock at 6. I understand why Chiefs fans are upset, but there's still a few more rounds to go. You still have a few more picks left. I felt the Peter Woods pick was really outstanding. He'll end up being at least a solid rotational guy for you. I think he's better than the last defensive lineman that you took in the first round out of Kansas State. So I get the frustration, but you were never going to be able to have it all. You were never going to come into this draft, fix everything that needed to be fixed. I feel Mansoor Delane, Peter Woods are a very good starting point for Kansas City being able to retool and overhaul that defense. The biggest loser from round 1 of the 2026 NFL draft has to be the New York Giants. I don't know what the New York Giants strategy is for how they're trying to build up this team, but I have no idea what the hell they're trying to do on defense. You draft Arvell Reese, who is a tweener. He's a linebacker slash edge. He played more linebacker than he did edge last season at Ohio State. He has a high ceiling, but a very low floor. He's one of the biggest boom or bust prospects in this draft. The Giants, when they traded Dexter Lawrence to the Bengals and they got that second top 10 pick, the 10th overall selection, I had the idea that the Giants were going to take Caleb Downs at 5 because they need to improve their secondary. Caleb Downs is debatably the best player in this draft. And then maybe at 10, they could have got Sonny Styles. Or you could have taken Sonny Styles 5th overall if you're the Giants, and then double back and got Caleb Downs with the 10th overall selection. And you could have walked away with the 2 best players coming out of this draft on the defensive side of the ball, and they would have improved your defense a lot more than what Arvell Reese is going to improve this side of the ball. We don't even know if Arvell Reese is even going to have an impact on the Giants defense as a rookie. He's not going to do much as a pass rusher since he's very raw. He's only been hyped up as a premium pass rusher due to the appeal he has with how successful Michael Parsons has been. Everybody's quick every time you have a tweener between linebacker and edge, they put the Michael Parsons comparisons on him. And he very well could be the next Michael Parsons, but he also could be a Caleb Von Chasen. He could be an Isaiah Simmons. Just because you have guys that can play multiple positions, that have a lot of athleticism, you can't ignore how raw they are. And the Giants, I felt, picking at 5, needed to walk away with a player that can automatically improve their defense instead of drafting somebody that you have to wait 2-3 years to develop for them to have an impact on that side of the ball. Arvell Reese, once again, he's a very talented player. Not trying to say the dude sucks. I'm not trying to call him trash. I feel just with where the Giants were picking at, if you needed an off-ball linebacker, if the purpose of addressing that need was the Arvell Reese pick, then it was a stupid decision. Sonny Styles was a much better linebacker prospect than what Arvell Reese was. Arvell Reese, if he was solely in the draft as a off-ball linebacker, he would have been a first-round pick. I don't know if he would have been a top 5 caliber pick. Sonny Styles is one of the greatest linebacker prospects ever. He's up there with Luke Kuechly, Patrick Willis, Brian Urlacher in terms of how good of a pro he already is coming out of college. He has phenomenal size. He's a freakish athlete, and he would have killed 2 birds with 1 stone for the Giants defense. They were okay against the run, but Sonny Styles would have improved your run defense since he's a good run defender, and he's sensational against the pass. Sonny Styles is going to change the linebacker position in the NFL. You're going to have more teams after how good Sonny Styles is going to be for the Commanders. They're going to be looking for linebackers that are not just good against the run, but have the coverage skills that Sonny Styles has. Being able to guard receivers that are playing in the slot, man up against tight ends, running backs coming out of the backfield. Your defense would have been much better if you drafted Sonny Styles at 5 and took Caleb Downs at 10 than what it is right now. If you just get an Arvell Reese and then drafting Francis Mauigoa 10th overall, you're probably going to move from the guard, which Francis Mauigoa is a great player. I'm never going to diminish a team for drafting any player from the Miami Hurricanes. The Miami Hurricanes were the second best team in college football. They have a lot of freaks on the line of scrimmage. Francis Mauigoa is going to be a dog for the Giants. If he never plays offensive tackle and they just keep him at guard, he's going to be phenomenal. If they ever choose to play him at tackle, let's say Andrew Thomas gets injured, you can slide Francis Mauigoa to left tackle, or you can put a Luminor at left tackle and then slide Francis Mauigoa to right tackle. I love the Francis Mauigoa pick. I just don't love the pick of Arvell Reese. The ceiling is crazy. He's very young, only 20 years old, but I don't think enough people are willing to be honest about how bad Arvell Reese could be. He could be a guy that could be out the NFL or bouncing around team to team like Isaiah Simmons is right now 4 or 5 years from now, because sure, he can play multiple spots, but is he good at any of them? It's one thing to be a jack of all trades. It's another thing to be a jack of all trades and a master of none. Is that going to be Arvell Reese? Are they going to figure out a way to develop him as a pass rusher? And while he develops as a pass rusher, will he be a very good off-ball linebacker? When you draft a guy this high, I feel he has to have an immediate impact. Unless it's a quarterback, you got to draft the guy that can have a day-one impact for you, not a guy that is just potential. Because what's the point of drafting a guy that high if he can't play for you right now and he's just potential? You got to wait to see how good he truly is. The Giants don't feel like they improved that much after the first round. It's what they could have if they drafted Sonny Styles 5th overall and took Caleb Downs 10th overall. This would have been a much better team than what it currently is right now. I don't feel like the first round moves the Giants made, drafting Arvell Reese 5th overall especially, moves the needle as much as what it would have if you just took Sonny Styles and Caleb Downs. Shout out to everybody that's tuned in. If you haven't already, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you do not miss when we drop new content. We aren't just the NFL podcast. We talk college football as well. We talk all things football 24/7, 365 days throughout the year. So make sure you smash that like button, subscribe, turn on post notifications. Follow us at JT Sports _ is where you can find us on Instagram, X, TikTok. We post bonus content. We interact with you guys from time to time in the DMs. If you want to stay up to date with everything that we have going on with the pod, with the show, follow us at JT Sports _ That's where you'll find us on TikTok, Instagram, and X. I got to get a sip of water real quick before I move on to the next segment. Okay, so I told you guys who my biggest loser was. My biggest winner from the first round of the 2026 NFL Draft, I don't have one. I have two of them. The Washington Commanders and the Dallas Cowboys are the two biggest winners from the first round of the draft this year. We'll start off with Washington. Washington walked away looking for either one of the best pass rushers or Mansoor Delane, and they walked away with the best player in the draft. Sonny Styles at 7th is insane value for how talented of a player he is and how good of a player he's going to be in the NFL. I know it's too early to try to predict how good these guys' careers are going to be, but I'm willing to bet a lot of money that Sonny Styles ends up being one of the best defensive players in the NFL for the next decade. He was viewed as a Patrick Willis, Luke Kuechly, Brian Urlacher kind of linebacker prospect during this draft process for a very good reason. Freakish size, freakish athleticism. If you would have told me that Sonny Styles was part of the Super Soldier program in real life, I would have believed you, because that's exactly how this guy is built. He's built like Captain America. He plays like Captain America. And it's also going to help that he's going to a team that has an all-time great linebacker to learn from, and Bobby Wagner. The Commanders, their defense had a lot of issues last year. Drafting Sonny Styles basically is the equivalent to you killing two birds with one stone, because Sonny Styles helps you out against the run, and he also is superb against the pass. With the kind of coverage ability that Sonny Styles has at linebacker, he's going to revolutionize the position. Now, NFL talent evaluators, GM scouts, they're going to change what they're looking for and future linebacker prospects because of Sonny Styles. Sonny Styles is not your average linebacker. He started out his Ohio State career at safety, then he transitioned to linebacker midway throughout, and it was the best decision he's ever made, because with how good he was as a safety in coverage, he's translated that coverage ability into linebacker, and he's even more effective in coverage, since you won't find too many linebackers that you can man up against a slot receiver, that you can man up against tight ends and running backs and them hold their own. Sonny Styles can do it all. He's going to improve the Commanders' run defense and their pass defense. What you wanted, you ended up not getting, and somehow you walked away with something much better. Sonny Styles is going to have a bigger impact on the Commanders this season than what Jeremiyah Love, Caleb Downs, or Mansoor Delane could have had, which are all three players that the Commanders were heavily interested in, according to a lot of reports. You got the best player in the draft that fixes so many needs that you had on defense. This is the perfect player for Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn loves versatile players that have this kind of athleticism, like Sonny Styles. He already has familiarity with a player like this when he was coaching the Falcons. I don't know if a lot of you guys remember this guy, but his name was Keanu Neal. He was a linebacker / safety for Dan Quinn for a good amount of his time for the Falcons. And he was a pretty good player under Dan Quinn. Kind of fell off as soon as Dan Quinn left. Now, the Dallas Cowboys are the second biggest winner of the first round this year, since they somehow were able to get the player they wanted this whole entire time without even having to move up for him. I thought there was no chance in hell that Caleb Downs was going to fall out of the top 10. Somehow he falls to the Dallas Cowboys with the 11th pick, and they end up improving the biggest area that they needed to address, the back end of that secondary. Caleb Downs can do everything for the Cowboys. He can be their slot corner. He can play single high, two high safety. He can be a nickel, dime, package linebacker. He has some of the best instincts, high IQ that you will ever find out of a defensive prospect in general, not just tied to safety, corner. Out of any player that you could have drafted this year on defense, you won't find a smarter player than what you're getting in Caleb Downs. He just has unreal instincts. He has a very good knack for being able to sniff out plays, figure out where the run's going, where the quarterback's trying to throw the ball to. He just is always around the football. Either he's making a play or he's somewhere around the proximity of the play being made. This is the first time the Cowboys have used a first-round pick on the safety in over 24 years. And this was one of the best first-round picks that the Cowboys could have made, since this is a real chess piece that the Cowboys are getting on their defense. This is a defense that struggled very heavily last year against the pass. You can line up Caleb Downs anywhere. Hell, I wouldn't be shocked if he could play a little bit of corner for you. Caleb Downs was one of the best players in this class, not just because he was a great athlete, but if we're going off pedigree and resume, there wasn't nobody with a better pedigree, with a better body of work than what Caleb Downs had coming out of this draft. This was a All-American every single year as a starter, going back to when he started as a true freshman at 18 years old, fresh out of high school, and Nick Saban during his final season. Caleb Downs is a dog. Getting Caleb Downs was the dream scenario for the Cowboys that actually became reality, because Cowboy fans, if they would have told you who they would have preferred if they could only have one, it would have been Caleb Downs or Sonny Styles. And I don't even think Cowboy fans thought they had a fair shot at getting any of those two guys. And somehow you end up walking away with the guy that you wanted after all, and Caleb Downs. So the Commanders and the Cowboys are the two biggest winners from the first round of the 2026 NFL draft, in my opinion. Shout out to my guy, Simply Eli. He says, can't believe my Dolphins traded down when Caleb Downs was there to pick a tackle project with character concerns. Yeah, man, that was a doozy. But honestly, the Dolphins taking Caden Proctor isn't as bad as a pick as what some Dolphins fans are making it out to be. Caden Proctor has been a starter every single year he's been in college football since a true freshman for Nick Saban, has very high potential, has the highest ceiling out of any of the offensive tackle prospects in this draft. It's not more so that he's a terrible player. He's just very inconsistent with run blocking, pass blocking, just everything is just all over the place. But if he ends up panning out, his comp is Trent Williams. And when you got a comp to Trent Williams, he's worth the risk. But I do understand when you have so many holes, you could have afforded to go best player available. A guy like Caleb Downs would have been a tremendous building block for Jeff Hafley and that new regime to build around. I still don't think the Caden Proctor pick is that bad, though. He's one of those players that either he's going to be phenomenal or he's going to be ass and out the league in 3-4 years. Either or, I can't really tell you which line he's going to fall in, but I'm willing to bet that he ends up being pretty good. Now, even though the Dallas Cowboys are one of the biggest winners from round one of the 2026 NFL draft, they also are one of the biggest losers from the first round of the draft this year. Now, initially, the Cowboys were just the winner, but they became a loser when the Steelers were on the phone with Makai Lemon, telling him that they're about to draft them, just for Jerry Jones to trade the pick to his biggest op in the division, the Philadelphia Eagles, and allow them to address the biggest need that they had, which was finding a replacement for A.J. Brown. There's a reason why Eagles fans love Jerry Jones. And Howie Roseman just showed everybody the reason for that, because Jerry Jones at times can be very idiotic. You don't give the biggest competition in your division, especially your biggest rival, what they need, and you allow them to get it. the Eagles didn't need Makai Lemon. When you're competing with a team in your division, you want them to be as bad as possible. If they need a replacement for A.J. Brown, the Cowboys were not supposed to be the team that allowed them to get that. And not only did the Dallas Cowboys screw themselves and the rest of the division, allowing the Eagles to get what they didn't need, which was A.J. Brown's replacement, but they also screwed all of the Steelers fan base over because I wanted Makai Lemon. I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. Makai Lemon was my favorite player in this draft, and we were so close to getting this dude. I was literally praying to the football gods that Makai Lemon will fall to 21, and it was so damn close to happening until Jerry Jones, dumb behind, messed it all up, giving his biggest ops in the division what they needed, or from a Dallas Cowboys fan standpoint, what they didn't need. Now, it just feels like it's all but inevitable that A.J. Brown is going to get traded when that post-June 1st deadline rolls around. You might as well consider A.J. Brown a New England Patriot already, because if he wasn't already getting traded, if you didn't need any more proof that A.J. Brown was going to get traded, here you go with the Eagles trading up to get Makai Lemon, who was the best receiver in this draft. I don't know how Makai Lemon went behind Cornell Tate and Jordan Tyson when he was a much better prospect than those guys. Sure, he isn't the explosive athlete that Jordan Tyson is, but he doesn't have the injury concerns that Jordan Tyson has also. Sure, he doesn't have the contested catch ability that Cornell Tate has, but he has better hands. He's a better route runner. He's a better separator than Cornell Tate. Makai Lemon is a mixture of JSN and Amon-Ra St. Brown put together. He's built like he primarily plays slot, but he primarily was an outside receiver for Lincoln Riley. Makai Lemon, what made me so high on him and why I wanted the Steelers to draft him so bad is that even if he's not the most explosive, I'm looking for technically sound receivers, guys that get in and out of their breaks with ease, guys that have good acceleration after the catch, which Makai Lemon has, and guys that just have an overall good skill set, that are overall good receiver. And that's what Makai Lemon is. He's not a one-trick pony. He's not elite at anything as far as, being able to catch the ball one-on-one in the red zone in a jump ball situation. He's not that kind of receiver, but from time to time, he could win a 50-50 situation. He can mark somebody occasionally, but his game is more so, I'm just a very good route runner. I get open. I'm going to create a lot of separation, and I'm going to be an easy target for Jalen Hurts to throw the football to, since unlike A.J. Brown, I'm not a contested catch guy. I'm not one of those just fuck it, throw it up to me, I'm somewhere downfield. No, I'm somebody that if you need a reliable security blanket on third down, if you're Jalen Hurts, Makai Lemon is going to be your guy. And I think that the Eagles receiving core is going to be a lot better with Makai Lemon replacing A.J. Brown alongside of Devontae Smith than what it would have been if you never would have drafted Makai Lemon and you would have kept A.J. Brown. The duo of Makai Lemon and Devontae Smith, that receiver for the Eagles, is going to terrorize defenses for the next few years because you have two of the best route runners in the NFL now. Devontae Smith, people overlook how good this dude is. This dude is not a wide receiver too. He could actually be a top 10 receiver if he actually got the volume. We forget Devontae Smith won the freaking Heisman at Alabama, on the same Alabama team that also had two other Heisman Trophy finalists on it from that year, and Najee Harris and Mac Jones. Devontae Smith is a dog. He actually can be a true one in replace of A.J. Brown. But when you're pairing him up with a guy like Makai Lemon, who has the ability to run routes, create separation as good as what Smitty can, Jalen Hurts could have a bounce-back year, since he now is going to be throwing to two receivers that are elite at getting open and creating separation. And when you had the kind of struggles that Jalen Hurts has had when it comes to reading the field, I think that Makai Lemon and Devontae Smith can help elevate Jalen Hurts in some capacity. If you're an Eagles fan, you got to be ecstatic right now. Makai Lemon was an absolute steal because he was the best receiver in this draft, and he ended up being the third receiver off the board. He doesn't have any character concerns. Don't buy too much into the narratives that's coming from his combine interviews. He's from Cali. That's how they talk over there. They talk like they're Kendrick Lamar. They talk like they're who else is a famous LA rapper? I can't think of him, but Makai Lemon is an absolute beast. I can't believe he fell to 20. And I wanted him to fall to 21, which is why I'm even more pissed off that Jerry Jones gave the Eagles the 20th overall pick. You're giving a team in your division help? What kind of sense does that make? The Eagles and the Cowboys are the only rivals in the league that consistently make trades on draft day, even though they hate each other. What kind of sense does that make, Jerry? You had an opportunity to take this division from the Eagles with them losing A.J. Brown, and you instead helped them by giving them what they needed, a replacement for A.J. Brown. This was a great pick for the Eagles. This was a huge steal for the Eagles in terms of not just getting Makai Lemon, but being able to even make this trade happen with your biggest op in the division. This is ridiculous to me. I don't know what the hell Jerry Jones be thinking sometimes. I love Jerry Jones, but sometimes I be kind of wondering, does Jerry Jones have Alzheimer's? Did he know that the team he traded with was the Philadelphia Eagles, right? He knows that. He knows that the Eagles and Cowboys hate each other. It's one of the best rivalries in the NFL. I don't know, man. Me trying to justify the moves that Jerry Jones makes is trying to justify seeing a crackhead outside talking to the wall. It's kind of, there is no way to justify it. It's not even worth the time trying to justify it. The most shocking pick of the draft this year, without a doubt, was the Rams drafting Ty Simpson 13th overall. I didn't see this coming. Some of you all might have seen this coming, but I wasn't expecting for the Rams to finally pull the trigger on finding a successor for Matthew Stafford. And first of all, I want to counter Booger McFarland's take on the Rams drafting Makai Lemon or the Rams drafting Ty Simpson. Booger McFarland couldn't be more wrong about the Rams' decision to draft Ty Simpson. The Rams have the best roster in the NFL. What more did they need? There wasn't really too much that the Rams could have drafted that they actually needed outside of an offensive lineman and a tight end, but their O-line is pretty good. They have one of the better tight end rooms in the league. To be a dominant franchise in the NFL, you have to focus on the now and also the future. And good GMs, they don't just think in a moment. They think 3-4 years from now. And what the Rams are thinking is, we have one of the greatest offensive minds ever. And we are allowing a young quarterback to sit and learn from him, along with also having the honor of learning from one of the all-time greats to play this position. You give Ty Simpson 2-3 years to learn and develop behind Matthew Stafford under Sean McVay. There's no way that Ty Simpson doesn't end up becoming at least a top 12 quarterback. People keep asking, what's the comp for Ty Simpson? The comp for Ty Simpson, the high-end comp is he's a great value brand version of Joe Burrow. I don't think he's going to be as cerebral as what Joe Burrow is, but he could be somewhere in that ballpark. He doesn't have the strongest arm, but he's very accurate. He throws with very good anticipation. He has very good mobility. He can extend plays. He can pick up some yardage. If you give him the opportunity to run, he will destroy you because he does have deceptive speed. When you look at Ty Simpson, he wouldn't strike you as a guy that's all that athletic, but he can move very well. And I was a lot lower on Ty Simpson when this draft process started than what I am now. The more I started thinking about Ty Simpson and where his best fits would be for him to maximize his potential at the next level, was either the Arizona Cardinals or the Los Angeles Rams. Now, we've been hearing for the last few weeks that he was going to be an Arizona Cardinal, and it made a lot of sense since they run a scheme that fits Ty Simpson perfectly. Mike LaFleur, who was on Sean McVay's offensive staff last year, which is so ironic about this, he runs a West Coast style offense. He wants to get the ball out fast, which means that you need a quarterback that is very accurate, 15 to 5 yards in that space, in that part of the field. That's really when a West Coast quarterback needs to be at his best. It's not about how accurately can you throw the deep ball, how far can you throw the ball. If you have a West Coast offense, you want your starting quarterback to be very accurate throwing the ball anywhere 5 to 15, 20 yards downfield. That's what Ty Simpson excels at. He also is very smart. One of the smartest quarterback prospects coming out of this class, if not the second smartest behind Fernando Mendoza. Very good pre and post snap. These are all the traits that you need to have to dominate in the Sean McVay kind of system. And with him, instead of him going to the Cardinals, going to the LA Rams, it was a huge steal for the Rams because not only are you getting a guy that you know is going to be a high-level quarterback for you, but he is a guy that is going to be able to come in, learn, not have the high expectations right away with this being the team that is in a win-now situation. So I don't see anything but good from this Ty Simpson draft pick from the Rams. I don't get what Bigger McFarland's point was in saying that they need to prioritize trying to win now. They traded for freaking Trent McDuffie a few months ago. Did we not forget that? They signed Jalen Watson in free agency. The Rams didn't have too many holes. They were in a position where they could prioritize the future and push back the now because the Rams already have the F those picks mentality anyway. The Rams weren't going to find anybody in the first round that was going to improve their chances of winning the Super Bowl this year. If anything, they were going to get a guy that could have came in and been okay, but not good enough to be a game changer. A guy that, if the Rams win the Super Bowl this year, you would say, yeah, they won the Super Bowl because they spent that first round pick on so-and-so rookie. Like, no, the Rams were already stacked. It wasn't really too many positions that they needed to address. So getting Ty Simpson, it made sense to me. And Sean McVay is the perfect coach for Ty Simpson. Sean McVay has a good eye for quarterback. If there's anybody whose judgment I trust drafting the quarterback in the first round, it's going to be Sean McVay. Sean McVay inherited Jared Goff. When Sean McVay got to pick his quarterback, which was Matthew Stafford, guess what he did? He won a Super Bowl with him. I'm not saying that Ty Simpson is going to be Tom Brady or anything like that, but if Sean McVay wants you, and he's willing to pull the trigger on drafting you to replace Matthew Stafford in the top 15, you got to be a really good quarterback. And Sean McVay is going to squeeze every ounce of potential out of Ty Simpson. How good could Ty Simpson be at his best? I say a top 7, top 8 quarterback. I say he's somewhere around that range. The mean, what would Ty Simpson be just overall, not factoring in what he will be at his best? I think he's kind of around a Brock Purdy. When I look at Ty Simpson, I get Brock Purdy vibes, and that's cool. If Ty Simpson was on the Jets or any other team in the AFC, I don't think he would have as good as a chance to succeed and reach his potential as what he does with the Rams. Because another thing that you have to take into account about this move is the NFC isn't dominated by these super freaks at quarterback like how it is in the AFC with Lamar, Mahomes, Herbert, Josh Allen. Those are where gods play quarterback. In the NFC, your better quarterbacks outside of Matthew Stafford, who's the most talented, Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, Jared Goff, Brock Purdy, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, all of these guys are good, but they're not the aliens that some of the best quarterbacks in the other conference are. Which helps a guy like Ty Simpson, because a guy like Ty Simpson doesn't need to win like Josh Allen or win like Lamar. He just needs to play within the system and the structure of the offense. And that's why Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan have always been big fans of guys like Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins may not be the flashiest quarterback, but he, at one point, was probably one of the best, if not the best, system quarterback in the league when he first got to the Vikings before he suffered that Achilles injury in his final season with Minnesota. They're not looking for Lamar or Josh Allen. They're looking for a guy who's 1, 2, 3, get it out. Don't be trying to freelance. Don't be trying to do your own thing. Run the damn play that's called and run it to its best perfection possible. And that's what Ty Simpson is going to do. He's going to be a game manager with the ceiling of being a very effective game manager. If he reaches his peak, he could be a very good point guard. He could be a very good distributor of the football. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. He's mobile, has an okay arm. And this was the best situation for Ty Simpson. He only has 15 starts. The majority of quarterbacks that have been bust in the first round are guys that didn't have a lot of experience underneath their belt. So if you get to sit for 2-3 years behind Stafford, learn from him, and soak up all the knowledge that you can, along with getting more comfortable with the system, there wasn't a better fit for Ty Simpson than the LA Rams. It didn't shock me that the Rams drafted him. It just shocked me that they were finally willing to pull the trigger on finding their successor for Matthew Stafford. And believe it or not, everybody, that's it for this episode. Shout out to everybody that tuned in. Shout out to M Spark. Shout out to Kate Brinkley. Shout out to Blood to Work. Shout out to everybody that's tuned in. What are y'all doing up so late, man? Y'all football sickos that much that y'all up this late? Hey, man, I'm not complaining. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Before you get up on out of here, do me one favor. Smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel. Turn on post notifications so you don't miss when we drop new content. We're talking all things football, NFL, college football, 24/7, 365 days throughout the year. Give us a 5-star review. You can find JT Sports wherever you get your podcast from. Apple, Spotify, the links are down in the description below. We will greatly appreciate it. If you give us a 5-star review, helps us out a lot. We're trying to get some sponsors going to be more appealing to advertisers and sponsors. We got to get our podcast numbers up. So what greatly appreciate it if you guys go ahead, give us a 5-star review on all podcasting platforms. You can find the JT Sports Podcast. Follow us on all of our social media pages. You can find us at JT Sports _ on Instagram, X, TikTok, and join our Discord, which is also in the description below. We're talking football at all times throughout the day, the night. If you just got an urge to talk some ball any time of the day, we're up talking ball in that Discord. Go ahead, join the JT Sports Discord chat in the description. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. And I will see you guys on Sunday, hopefully, with my post-draft analysis. I'll also will be doing draft grades, going division by division. So make sure you're subscribed. You got notifications turned on so you don't miss any of the new content that